Hey guys, it's Tiff and welcome back to my channel. You already know what today's video is, so I do not need to tell you twice. What is up? Like I said, you already know what this is, so without further ado, we're gonna get into it and I am going to try my best to tell you guys these books in the order I read them. So starting out with the very first book I read this year, which was City of Endless Night by Preston and Child. I had very high expectations for this book and let's just say it did not meet my expectations at all. So this is a mystery thriller and it is about Grace Osmond. She is the daughter of a very wealthy tech billionaire from New York City. So when she first goes missing, the NYPD thinks she's just run away on another crazy adventure, as she has done before. That is until they find her body, but the kicker, her head is nowhere to be found. So she has been decapitated and they cannot find the head anywhere. The synopsis of this book had me thinking it was going to be incredible, and then I started reading the book and things started happening and I was like, this has the potential to be an amazing story, but it fell flat for me. I felt like there was so much potential for this story and it just did not meet what I felt it should have. And another thing, there was so many POVs to this story. Don't get me wrong, I love a good dual POV. Give me a romance book with dual POV and I eat that shit up, okay? I eat it up. But with this, there is so many different POVs. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 different POVs of this book, one of which I swear is pointless. It adds basically nothing to the story but extra pages. This book could have been so many pages shorter if it didn't have that POV. I gave this book a 2.5 out of 5 stars, which is the lowest I've ever rated a book since I started reading, which was only back in August, but still, the lowest book I've ever rated. I just really didn't like it. I pushed through till the very end because I really felt like I couldn't not finish it. I had never DNF'd a book at this point, so I pushed through and I was not happy that I pushed through. Honestly, I kind of regretted making myself finish it because I wasted a lot of hours reading this book that I did not enjoy. So that is the first book I read this year. It was off to a really bad start. So the next book I read this year was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a good one, let me say. Going from a book that I rated a 2.5 out of 5 stars to a book that I literally rated 5 stars was such a good jump. It was such a good jump. So I loved this book. This book is obviously about Evelyn Hugo and her 7 husbands. So Evelyn in her old age decides that she wants to tell her life story from coming into Hollywood in the 50s and leaving Hollywood in the 80s. She wants to tell every single gruesome little detail about her life in Hollywood and about all of her husbands along the way. So she chooses magazine reporter Monique Grant to be the one to write her story. But there is a very specific reason why she chose Monique to write her story, and let's just say it's not the happiest of reasons. So throughout this book there is a section for each one of her husbands and you go through literally in chronological order what happens, who she marries, what happens while they're married, why they get a divorce, who she marries next, and so on and so forth. And I loved going through and reading about all of her husbands, everything she did to get to be this it girl in Hollywood in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. It was just such a beautiful story. There's some forbidden love in this story too, which is also a part of the story that was just a really incredible and beautifully written part of the book. But once you get to the point where you're finding out why Evelyn chose Monique in the first place, it is so sad and you feel like, how did I not pick up on this? How did I not see this coming? And it's just so sad. But this book is just so good, so beautifully written, and I genuinely loved it so much. I literally was hooked from the start, like literally from the first chapter. I was hooked and I loved it so much. This is a book that I still often think about and I would recommend this to literally everyone. It is so good. So the next book I read this year is Murdered at 17 by Christine Conrad. This is a YA mystery thriller and let me tell you, I loved every minute of this. This book is so good, and the synopsis of this book every single time I read it gives me the chills. So instead of explaining to you what this book is about, we are going to read the synopsis together because it is too good not to. Pretty and popular 17-year-old Brooke Emerson is the envy of her classmates and even some of her closest friends. But while she seems to have it all, Brooke has never felt so lost. Ever since she sustained a head injury during a cheerleading stunt the previous year, she suffers from a disorder disorder that causes her to fly into uncontrollable and sometimes violent rages. As hard as she tries to keep it together, she finds herself in danger of jeopardizing her seemingly perfect life. It isn't until Brooke meets Jake, a charismatic and handsome stranger, that she feels like she has found someone who not only understands her, but accepts her for who she is. But as tempting as it is to get swept up in the romance, she can't help but feel like something in their relationship just isn't right. However, when her best friend is brutally murdered, Brooke has no choice but to depend on him, especially because she is worried that she might be the killer. If you did not just get chills while I read that, this book is so good. I think a big part of the reason why I genuinely enjoyed this book so much was how this was like a romance and a mystery thriller kind of all wrapped up into one. So you see their relationship, you see how they meet, and just where their relationship goes from there. I love me a good romance, so you know I loved reading their romance. But another thing that I genuinely loved about this book is the fact that you pretty much know who the killer is. As soon as the murder happens and kind of leading up to that point, you're like, I think this is the person that did it. Like, my gut's telling me this is who did it, but you're going through Brooke's perspective, and so you don't actually know what happened, and so you're just trying to uncover, like, did I do it? Did someone else do it? Was it this person? Was it this person? Is it me? Am I crazy? And then when you finally figure out who did it and all that comes to light, it is done in a beautiful way, and I literally loved it. It was just done so good, and I literally thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave this book a 5-star. I loved it. Okay, this next book is one of my all-time favorite books, literally in my top 3 favorite books of all time. And me and Miss Sarah were reading it at the same time, unintentionally. I just had started reading this book, and then one day I'm on Instagram and I see she posts on her Instagram story a picture of a book, like showing off a quote, and I'm like, oh my god, she's reading this book, and we were at the exact same point in the book. So you know I DM'd her, and she ended up DMing me back, and we had like a full-on conversation about it, which, Sarah, if you ever see this, which I doubt you do, but if you ever see this, just know that the fact that you responded to my DM and you still respond to my DMs to this day, literally, I love you, and you are the sweetest soul for that, because a lot of creators don't do that, and it made my day. It made my day. But anyway, moving on. If you don't already know what this book is, come on guys, it's pretty obvious. Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book is absolutely incredible. I literally love this book so much. 5 stars, 6 out of 5, 7 out of 5, 8 out of 5, 9 out of 5, 10 out of 5. I don't even know. As many stars as I can give this, I'm giving this. Incredible. This book follows Magnolia and BJ. Think toxic relationship, but they cannot get away from each other. But so good. So good. So I went into this book completely blind, other than people saying that it was like Gossip Girl in a book. And I was like, okay, I'm sure I'm gonna love it because I love Gossip Girl. I loved it. So much more than I was expecting to, but it's so good. I loved going through and just learning about all these characters and seeing how their relationship is and how toxic it is, but how they still just love each other so much. I don't even know what to say about it other than I love it so much, and I would seriously recommend so many people to read this. I will say, if like toxic relationships are like a trigger for you, probably don't read it, but if you love Gossip Girl, you will love this and you need to read it. So if you haven't already, pick it up. Okay, come here, come here. Also, for those of you who don't know, I have a small business, and I may or may not have made a hoodie design for this book that I'm gonna be dropping fairly soon, and it's pretty cute if I do say so myself. So if you like this book, stay tuned. Anyways, moving on to the next book. So the next book is also in my top 3 favorite books of all time. Ironic that I read them back to back, but it was just so good. I actually did a reading vlog of me reading this book, and man, oh man, did this book make me feel things. And that is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Not me almost dropping the book. I literally love this book. This book made me feel things literally that a book has never made me feel before. Made me feel all the emotions you could ever possibly feel. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me blush, all the things. Sometimes I would be reading this book and it would transport me back to like high school when I had just started dating my husband, and to read a book and it make you feel like you're back in those times of your life and like make you remember such great memories and feel like you're back there is such an incredible thing. and I feel like books don't really do that very often, and so it was just incredible that this book was like that for me. It made me love it so much, but also the story is just so beautiful. It's a childhood friends to lovers second chance. This book is about Macy and Elliot. They were very close friends when they were younger, and then something happens to where they stop talking for 11 years. The thing, we don't know, but they stop talking and then they run into each other 11 years later and kind of start being in each other's lives again. Takes you through then and now. So while you're reading this book, you're getting to understand their relationship from when they were younger and getting to see how their relationship is progressing in present time. And when you find out what made them stop talking in the first place, it is really sad, and it broke my heart. There's also another thing in this book that absolutely broke my heart. This book it gave me all the feels. It gave me all the feels. It is such a good book. This is one book that I would genuinely recommend to every single person. This was also the first ever book that I started reading and was like, I need to annotate this. I didn't annotate it because I don't have any tabs. I need to order some off Amazon so that I can annotate it, because I will be rereading this and I will be annotating it. Maybe I'll do a reading vlog of me doing that, but obviously 5 stars. Okay, so the next 2 books are actually DNFs. I do not count them towards my reading goal, but I wanted to go ahead and share them with you anyways because I kind of read them, kind of didn't. You know what I mean? Anyways, so the first one is Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is my first ever DNF ever. I hated it. 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 Both of these DNFs are actually from my blind date with a book video, and I just couldn't get through them. I ended up getting to the point in this book where I had like literally 60 pages left, but I was hating it so much that I could not push through the last 60 pages and I just gave up. I could not force myself to sit there and read for another like hour and a half of a book that I was hating. So I DNF'd it, and I'm glad I did. And then the second DNF is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, I think is how you say it. This is just not my style book. It's a fiction book about a son writing a letter to his mother who cannot read, and it's just not my style book. I'm sure if this is your type of book, I'm sure it's a great book, but I could not get through it. I knew if I pushed through this book more than I did, I would have put myself in a slump. So yeah, those are my DNFs. Okay guys, the next book I read is such a good one, and it is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This book, oh my gosh, so sad. I read this for a reading sad books for a week video, which the next 2 books were also in that video. Oh my gosh, this book is so sad, but it's so beautiful at the same time. So this book follows Bree and Archer and their love story. So I'm gonna read the synopsis for you guys so you can get a little idea of what this book is about. I personally went into this book completely blind. I knew nothing about it, and I'm honestly glad I went into it blind, but I think you guys would be a little upset with me if I didn't tell you what it was about. So here we go. I wanted to lose myself in that small town in Maine, to forget everything I left behind, the sound of the rain, the blood, the coldness of the gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath has been a reminder that I survived and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again. But the moment I meet Archer Hale, my entire world tilts on its axis and never rights itself again. Until I trespass into his strange, silent, and isolated world, Archer communicates with no one. Yet, in his whiskey-colored eyes, something intangible happens between us. There's so much more to him than just his beauty, his presence, or the way his hands communicate with me. But this town is mirrored in secrets and betrayals, and Archer is in the explosive center of it all. So much passion and so much hurt. But it's in Archer's silence that we might just find what we need to heal and to live. Reading and watching these 2 people who have extremely traumatic and terrible things that happened to them in the past come together and learn to love each other, and their love story is beautiful, but this book is incredibly sad at the same time. It's like a roller coaster of emotions, okay? I don't know how else to put it other than it's a roller coaster of emotions. It's just so good. I gave it a 5 star, as it deserves, because it is genuinely a beautiful story. This is another book that I would highly recommend to anyone. I actually bought my sister a copy when we were in KC visiting because she said she wanted to read it, and I was like, I'm buying it for you because you have to read it. I don't think she's finished it yet because she would have told me, but it's just so good. Literally love it so much. Okay, the next book I read is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. So like I said, I read this in the Reading Sad Books for a Week video also. I will say this is not a book that was like sad crying, just sad because what it's about. So this book is about Eden, and it follows her life after she gets raped by her brother's best friend. And it follows her life freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school after it happens. This book does an absolutely incredible job of showing how her relationships with every single person, how her reactions to things, how literally every single thing in her life changes because of this thing that happens to her. Amber Smith did an incredible job with this book. I highly would recommend every single person to read this because I feel like we need to understand what happens to people after that happens to them. It is a very emotional book because of what it's about, and it can be very uncomfortable at times when, you know, you're reading what happened to her, but at the end of the day, it's a very good story. I would highly recommend literally everyone to read it because it is truly just so good. I'm pretty sure there is a second one either already out or is coming out, and I will definitely be reading that at some point because this was so good. I gave it a 5-star. I know a lot of these books are 5 stars, and you guys are probably like, there's no way you're reading that many 5-star reads, but they're just 5 stars to me. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Read it. Okay, so the last book from that Reading Sad Books for a Week video is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. You know I got the rec from Sarah. You know I got the rec from Sarah. This book tore me to shreds. It did indeed do that. So here's the synopsis for you guys so you can get a little idea of what it's about if you don't already know. If he had been with me, everything would have been different. Autumn and Finn used to be inseparable, but then something changed, or they changed. Now they do their best to ignore each other. Autumn has her boyfriend Jamie and her close-knit group of friends. Finn has become that boy at school that everyone wants to be around. That still doesn't stop the way Autumn feels every time she and Finn cross paths, and the growing nagging thought that maybe things could have been different. Maybe they should have been together. And as time passes, Autumn realizes she might not get another chance to make things right before it's too late. So pretty much, quite literally, I'm not exaggerating, from the first chapter you know how this book is gonna end. But you go through this book and you get attached to these characters and you start to really root for them, and you are just hoping that what you read in the first chapter doesn't actually happen. And then when the ending comes, it just tore me up. It ripped my heart into shreds. I will say I did only give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars just because it had a very slow start for me, so it took me a little bit longer to get into it. And then also, I feel like the end came and went just as quick. I feel like the ending was a little rushed. Like, it just seemed like the main climax of all the events that were happening started and then it just literally stopped just as quickly. But I did love this book. I loved the story. I got attached to the characters, and again, tore my heart to shreds. It was very sad, but it was a very good book, and I do recommend it. If you want a book to tear your heart and rip it into shreds, read this. It's a good one for that. Stay hydrated, folks. So the next book I read is Rush by Maya Banks, and this was a good one. I thoroughly enjoyed this, actually. I will say this is the smuttiest book I've ever read so far, and wow, I was not expecting what I read in this, but it was a very good book. So this is the first in a trilogy, and the trilogy follows Gabe, Jace, and Ash. They are 3 of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the country, and they are all also business partners. So this first book follows Gabe and Mia, and Mia just so happens to be Gabe's business partner Jace's little sister. So this book has the forbidden love, age gap, brother's best friend trope. So you follow, obviously, their forbidden relationship, but also he is a very possessive and dominant person, if you get what I'm saying. So that's kind of the gist of this book. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars because there is one scene in this book that I really did not like, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. I get it did add to the plot, it added to the story, and it did push it into that part that it kind of needed to get to, but that doesn't make it any less uncomfy to me and any less I hated every moment of reading that to me. So for that, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I did really enjoy this. I literally read it in like 1.5 days. I flew through this book. I'm excited to read the rest of the trilogy. I own all of it. I just haven't got to the rest yet, but I am excited to read the rest because I did really enjoy this one. Okay, so the next book I read, I don't have a physical copy because I read it on my phone, but it was Just a Little Hookup by Carly Phillips and Erica Wilde. I really enjoyed it. It was a very quick, small little read that I just found on my phone going on a road trip, but I really enjoyed it. It is also the brother's best friend trope. Very much liked it. So this book is about Jessica and Derek. Derek is pretty rich, so you know, people kind of want him. And Jessica is more of a curvy girl, you know, she's not your average slim figured girl. So Jessica ends up attending an event where men are being auctioned off, and Derek just so happens to be one of the men being auctioned off. So it kind of starts there, and you kind of just go through the story of she bought him for a reason that I'm not gonna say, and you just kind of see their relationship blossom, and there's a lot of drama with his ex, and it is a crazy story, but I really enjoyed it. Reading this on my phone made me really want to get a Kindle because I did enjoy it. It was so easy to read in bed and stuff. So I think I'm gonna get a Kindle soon. So comment down below what type of Kindle I should get, because I really want to get one now. But moving on to the next book I read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. Holy moly, guys. This book, oh my gosh. I don't even know how to form full sentences about this book. So this is a mystery thriller, if you did not already know. It kind of blew up on TikTok, so I bought it while I was home. Then my sister read it, and then I came home and I read it, and wow. Here's the synopsis so you guys can get an idea of what it's about if you don't already know. Would you defend your husband if he was accused of killing his mistress? Sarah Morgan is a successful and powerful defense attorney in Washington, D.C. At 33 years old, she is named partner at her firm, and life is going exactly how she planned. The same cannot be said for her husband, Adam. He is a struggling writer who has had little success in his career. He begins to tire of his and Sarah's relationship as she is constantly working. Out in the secluded woods at Adam and Sarah's second home, Adam engages in a passionate affair with Kelly Summers. Then, one morning, everything changes. Adam is arrested for Kelly's murder. She has been found stabbed to death in Adam and Sarah's second home. Sarah soon finds herself playing the defender for her own husband, a man accused of killing his mistress. But is Adam guilty or is he innocent? Wow, I just got chills thinking about reading this book. This book was incredible. This author did an incredible job of making sure you had no idea who the killer was. It was a major plot twist for me. Holy crap, it was a major plot twist for me. But yeah, she does an incredible job of making sure you think it is everyone except the person who it is. And the plot twist, literally incredible. So good. So good. That's all I can say. It is so good. Yeah, I gave this a 5-star. This was incredible. This was incredible. Read it right now. Right now. Pick it up. Here you go. Read it. Okay, and the last book that I have read so far this year is The Lake by Natasha Preston. This is actually my most recent reading vlog, so if you haven't seen that, you should go watch it, and it is of my husband choosing my next read. He chose this, I read it, and it was incredible. This is a YA mystery thriller, and man oh man, I thought because it was a YA book it wasn't gonna be too crazy, but no. This was insane. This was insane. I have only read 4 mystery thrillers. They were all this year, and this I think has got to be my favorite one. Over The Perfect Marriage, I know that might be a little crazy to say, but it was so good, and the ending of this, the way this book ends was not what I was expecting, but it was incredible. Like the way this ends was, this is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece, okay guys? So this book is about Esme and Kayla, and they used to be campers at this summer camp. Years later, they are coming back as camp counselors, but when they were campers, they did something that they have kept secret all these years because it was horrible and they have never spoke about it again. But nonetheless, they go back years later as camp counselors because they think it's been long enough, no one knows, it's not a big deal, until they receive a message from the lake saying the lake never forgets. hits. So the secret that they have kept secret all these years is about to resurface, and man oh man, when it does, shit gets crazy. Holy crap. There is also a little bit of like subplot of romance in this, and I literally was eating it up. I loved it so much. The way this book ends was so unexpected, and it was done so good. I did see some reviews that some people hated how this book ended. Personally, I love how this book ended. I think the author just did an absolutely incredible job creating how this book ends. 5 out of 5 stars, literally 6 out of 5 if I could. This was incredible. I loved it so much. Another book where I'm like, pick it up and read it. But anyways, those are all the books that I have read so far this year. Don't worry, there are going to be many more to come. Lots more monthly reading wrap-ups for you to see the rest of the books I'm gonna read this year. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, because we have a lot of fun over here and we want you to join the fun. With that being said, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Make my YouTube money.
With that being said, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.